Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you guys are listening to us. Welcome back to another edition of the Layman's AI podcast. I am Adam,
And my name is Brian.
and we want to welcome everybody to episode 58 of the Layman's AI podcast. Tonight, we're going into a subject that it might seem boring, but we're centering this around one specific question because Brian and I have been kicking this around for a couple minutes now, as we've been joking, but we've been thinking about this, and the question is AI, and by AI in this case, we're talking about our standard LLMs. Are they becoming bland in 2026?
Hmm. That is the big question right now, because everyone's coming out with that new model. We're having
Yeah.
this new model coming out. I think Claude just released Fable. Then it
Well,
got unreleased, then it
yeah,
got re-released, and
yeah. It's like Brett Favre's retirement. He's retired. He's not retired. Or what was that other TV
hmm
show? Lost. They're on the island. They're off the island. They're back on the island. That's what it seems like to
yeah,
me. Wait, what's
yeah,
going
that's
on
what
with
it was.
Fable? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, either way, and what is the general public's response?
Right.
Shoulder shrug. Like that's
Yeah.
where it's become right now because I think like the LLM shock, has this sort of worn off essentially. Like being like the LLM right now, we're like, oh, we got our new model out. It does this, this, and this,
hmm
and it's like, what else can it do? It's doing the same exact thing that I've been doing with this LLM. So why did you come
Yeah.
out with a new model?
I know we're going to dive into this, but you and I talked about this, and in 2026, has there been any major developments in LLMs that impact the layman?
hmm
I'm I'm not so sure. I know we had the Clawbot and all that stuff that was happening, and that was interesting, but that's not an LLM, and I think
hmm
the hype around a lot of that has died down.
hmm
It's an interesting question. So let's start diving in tonight by, if you recall, last August. We're talking August of 2025. Now,
Yes.
Brian, I don't know if you remember what happened, but I do because I was a ChatGPT guy at that time. And by the way, I'm still kind of a ChatGPT guy. I just can't.
hmm
I'm like
hmm
Fable with Claude. I'm on again. I'm off again. I'm on again. I'm off again.
Oh yeah.
But okay, ChatGPT released ChatGPT 5. And
hmm
I'm going to go back even further. When ChatGPT went from ChatGPT 3 to ChatGPT 4, I was amazed, stunned, all of the positive words you can use, and actually thought to myself, oh my goodness, these things can actually do real work for us and do it accurately. It was like the first time I'm seeing this
hmm
thing roll. So when 5 came out last August, I was excited. I think I even mentioned it on our podcast that 5 was coming out in June. I was all excited about it. I was hyping it up a little bit. And when it came out, everybody was excited for about 12 hours, it seemed.
hmm
And after that, everything started coming in. All the complaints like, what is this? They ruined ChatGPT, very underwhelming.
hmm
I mean, some of the complaints were things like shorter, less detailed answers, a colder, somewhat corporate personality.
hmm
It lost the ability to brainstorm freely. And
hmm
it did score lower than some of its AI rivals on independent tests, those matrices or testing that's done. Um,
hmm
Actually, where OpenAI made a big mistake was they originally pulled the older, more popular model overnight. They pulled 4.0 out or 4 out,
hmm
and then there was a lot of backlash, and they had to bring it back.
Yeah.
Um, and I do
Yeah,
remember,
that's interesting one.
yeah, I don't understand. It was just a bomb. It was just a bomb in a bad way, it bombed. Like the Cleveland Browns season after week 3. It didn't do well. You know.
Which season?
Pretty much all of them since 1999.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, you said this Cleveland Brown season. It's like, which season did they bomb? They're a bomb. But anyway,
It's a
I
consistent.
digress back to
My bad.
ChatGPT. But yeah, but I mean, the thing is though, um, I think we're reaching like kind of a tipping point, and I think like the GPT-5 sort of proved it. It's like, oh, we have our new and improved model. It wasn't improved. It wasn't that good, and then you have to start asking the question like, is the new LLM model really that big of a deal anymore? because they go through a lot of internet searches to run these LLMs. And, kind of one thing, uh, I kind of read about this before, like, because it's all about data and everything. And the idea was scale data, more data, better, more data equals better. That hasn't proven to be the case because you can get bad data. And essentially what the LLMs are starting to do is they do all these the web scraping, as they call it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term or what have you, where you basically go to a website and you can pull data based off of, whatever the public website is. Some sites block it or what have you. But a lot of it now is a lot of AI generated text. And now what you're doing is you're getting a lot of AI generated blog posts and everything.
Mm.
So when you're going through that, now it's become a slop loop, as they call it. So now when you're releasing, ChatGPT 5 came out, who cares? Like it
Yeah.
it did not give me anything new, essentially. I had
Yeah.
to go with the slop loop there because, getting that new LLM, um, whatever, like we need more now, essentially, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about what happened when ChatGPT went from 3 to 4, it
Hmm.
actually had that research mode. It actually had like a deep research feature. It actually took the time to do agent-like stuff. It was a big leap forward. And then we also saw leaps in other things during that time period. We also saw image generation, video
Hmm.
generation, and we're not seeing big leaps in 2026. At least I don't feel like we are, not in the LLM models.
Hmm.
We're not seeing it. And what's so interesting to me is I'm not sure why. I think I have an idea why. It's another one of our segments coming up.
Hmm.
But it seems like the innovation is not where it was, and it's making it feel bland. I mean, I personally, I used to be very excited when they announced a new model.
Hmm.
Now I just kind of go, all right, and then I wait to hear the reviews. I search Reddit. I watch a couple of YouTube videos with YouTubers that I trust. And they're agreeing with what I'm saying. It's bland. Now, don't if I'm telling our audience members, don't fall for the hype people who are like, watch what it can do, and they only focus on one little aspect of that, what that thing
Hmm.
can do. Don't buy into the hype. Use it yourself, figure it out yourself if it's worth it or not. And for the most part, they're good models, but they're not blowing us away. It seems to be stagnant at the moment. That's
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying with the LLMs at the moment.
Yeah. So kind of where we score those LLMs, that kind of leads us into our next segment here.
Right.
We got the scorecards, and why the test scores say the same thing.
Yeah.
And essentially, what we have here is, analogy is AI companies grade models on standardized tests. I think you
Yeah.
compared it to the SAT or the ACT or what have you.
That's what I would
And
say to our layman's. Yes, it's like an SAT for LLMs to see how they do and score in these benchmark areas. And there's many different ones. There are standard ones that they like to use, but there are many different ones. Yes.
yeah, and if you're going to compare it to the education world, standardized testing, that's a big debate right now in the education world.
So
I know it's been very frowned upon and everything, or are they really like explaining anything, kind of? And are these standardized tests really, giving us a whole lot as to what this LLM or AI model can do, essentially?
I think one of the issues is with these AI models, when a new one comes out, it obviously scores higher than its peers because it's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it was going to score higher, so they announce it right away. Look how high it scored. And I
Mm-hmm.
think within 2 weeks, all of the newer models coming out from the others are all at that same level. So
Mm-hmm.
to use this analogy, imagine you're the kid, you studied really hard for a few weeks, and you're now number one in the class. The teacher announces it, and you continue to study hard, but the rest of your peers have caught up to you in a matter of 2 weeks because they noticed that you were ahead and they don't feel like you should be. So they caught up to you in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to
Yeah.
now work harder to stay ahead, but nobody's really going anywhere because they're at the max. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And, I think this kind of goes back. We did the business of AI a little while ago.
mhm.
And when you look at the real business of all of it, there are relatively few companies with their hands in all of these different pots right here.
Yeah.
Microsoft has its hands in, OpenAI, but also has its hands on, some other ones. Amazon, AWS has their hands in a bunch of them, behind the scenes and everything. And, you know, Grok is basically, bases everything off of ChatGPT's model and everything.
Hmm.
So what you're looking at, um, they're all kind of coordinated behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, like you said, they're testing almost virtually the same. I think one study by Stanford, the top six companies are separated by statistically by a meaningless margin,
Yeah.
meaning that you know, you're not differentiating yourselves anymore.
Right.
And I think like the LLM aspect, the LLM development aspect, I believe has kind of reached a saturation point or a plateau essentially.
I agree with you. And to use what you said as an analogy, when they're all scoring within a meaningless points of each other, when I was an assistant principal at a high school in North Carolina, there was a valedictorian of the school I was at. He had a 5.13, and the
Hmm.
salutatorian had a 5.11. And
Hmm.
when you're statistically breaking that down, yes, the 5.13 beat the 5.11.
Hmm.
Not one of those kids missed a question on any test they ever took in high school.
Yeah.
What, so how does the one person get a 5 point? Like they're both extremely strong students. These are all extremely strong models. And
Hmm.
what's the difference when you're using something that's that low, that low of a
Yeah.
difference between them, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of yeah, it's like it doesn't matter. They're both smart as all can be. Smarter than me, obviously, but I mean
well,
they're
yeah, me too.
when
Yeah,
you're doing these metrics and everything, like the metrics are good, like standardized, tests and everything, they're good to a point. But once you start to like turn them into a competition, essentially, you get like the 1 or 2 points difference. And, this ain't a basketball game, this ain't a football game. Like you win by
right.
two, you get the trophy. No, you score by two on these standardized tests over
Yeah.
this other LLM. It's like, it makes absolutely no difference here.
And these LLMs, they rely on these benchmark tests for their marketing campaigns.
Hmm.
Look at how good we scored on this. And they do prey a little bit on the layman of, okay, wow, they're the highest scoring right now. Well,
Hmm.
by how much? And is it worth that much more? You know, they scored the highest right now, but in 2 weeks, everybody's going to be scoring that. So,
Hmm.
I promise our listeners, we have a bank of episodes that we have, and one of them is these AI performance measures. So, one of these days,
Hmm.
we will get around to that to explain what this is and why it's kind of problematic, just like
Yeah,
standardized tests in
exactly.
real life with humans. But I don't want to go into that topic right now because I'll be on a diatribe that's way longer than our normal time.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely. But
yeah,
yeah, so it's just kind of, the tests have become almost maybe like a general range, I'd say.
hmm,
I know in the controls industry we go by tolerances, and if you dial it in at an exact zero point 0.0, you're trying to keep a temperature there. But if you drift like point 0.1 or point 0.2 off, it doesn't really matter to the final product. Just like things like that. It's just what it kind of reminds me of.
I kind of like that
But
idea of tolerances as a measurement.
yeah. Yes, definitely.
It's
That's
fascinating.
that's a controls engineering podcast right there. But either way, so yeah, I mean, as of right now, if you're gonna go with Claude's models, ChatGPT models, Grok's models, um, Gemini's models,
Let's
you're not getting much of a difference from a raw model standpoint.
Correct. And I think right now we should go into what the recent updates have been for each model. So we could talk
Yeah.
about, because even though there's a new model release, there's almost always a positive of some kind. But it's just for us as laymen, it looks like the same thing, just repackaged and repackaged. But those that are
Hmm.
really high level may have understand, oh, look, it could do this better as a result of this. So um, this one in April, we're going to do ChatGPT. Actually, ChatGPT is going to be on this list twice for two reasons.
Hmm.
Because the one that's coming up now. So 5.5 was released in April of 2026. They called it a genuine ground up rebuild. There were some noted long document memory encoding gains that we saw on Reddit and stuff like that. But when it came to layman use, first off, it landed a little quietly. I don't think people remember that it was like a big release, which just goes to show. people aren't paying attention as much.
Hmm.
But there was several reviewers who did some reviews of it on YouTube, and they actually found it not performing as well as the previous version, the 5.4 that was out. And it just didn't wow anybody. Now I bring that up because ChatGPT 5.6 Sol, I believe, SOL, is coming out soon, and I believe it's supposed to roll out this week. But we've heard this before, where these AI companies have said, "Oh, this model's coming out now," and it actually
Hmm.
didn't. It got postponed. They've even been teasing. I think I've been hearing rumors that they're teasing about a new one called watermelon, which reminds me of when they teased strawberry, and I still don't know what the heck strawberry was. But they're teasing something for watermelon. And here's another problem, Brian, that I think when these things roll out, sometimes your access is initially restricted, even for paid members. Like when Fable came out for Claude, I didn't have access to it at the same point a lot of other people did, yet I'm a paying customer. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
I'm a paying customer too. I used it for a few personal fun things that I was doing.
uh-huh.
Um, but it is definitely uses takes up your usage a lot more.
Yeah.
And I had failed to I should have done this. I should have actually this might be another episode idea. Ask different models to do the same exact tasks.
Hmm.
Is something I'm gonna look in like maybe we should that's a future episode idea. Write down in the document.
All right.
Where you're using more data and everything right now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sort of what people are kind of looking
Yeah.
at right there. And when you're doing like the Chat GPT 5, the developers price doubled
Yeah.
essentially, according to a few what was this Build Fast with AI Vellum. Um, and yeah, it's like people are starting to wonder all that right there.
They are. And the other thing that I want to say is it seems like sometimes, in particular with like the 5.6 rollout that's about to happen,
Mm,
it seems like they're marketing this stuff towards coders, and
mm,
laymen's are not necessarily coders. I do think it's very realistic that a layman can become a decent coder with the help of AI, but I
mm,
don't think they're going to be an expert on it. And I feel like these companies are trying to impress that top 10% of knowledge people when there's another 90% who use it for everyday use that
mm.
sometimes want stuff a little simpler. But
Yeah, what is this marketed as? Yeah, coding, science, and everything, and
mhm,
yeah, that has to initially be. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading some of our bullet points right there, but
right.
um,
I mean, that's according to that came from OpenAI itself about the 5.6. That's where we
yeah,
got
I
that
know.
from.
I think this all goes back to the vibe coding phenomenon,
Hmm.
essentially, where everyone's saying that they're vibe coding and everything, and a lot of people who have used AI to code, people who have been coding in many years to come, talks about how wrong they are so
Hmm.
many times.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of comical because they have to go in and fix everything. And
Yeah.
it's just not quite working out that way. And, I think using AI for coding has become kind of the new what should I say, carrot to chase,
I
essentially. And I think that, like this Souls 5.6 model does kind of sound like they're trying to go for that carrot right there.
well, and confirm that with Sonnet 5 from Claude.
Hmm.
Where were the real gains noted in coding?
Hmm.
And there was a Claude Sonnet 5 was a there was a I don't know what the change exactly was as a layman, but I do know that it did quietly have the costs move up
Hmm.
by more than a third.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's performing that much better for a layman. Okay. But I think some companies actually said that it was optimizing for wealth extraction instead of actually solving problems. I think that came from Hacker News, and I'm not sure what kind of a source that is, but it was found by Perplexity. So I'm
Yeah.
going
Well,
to give it a it's better
ha
than nothing.
Hacker News does do a pretty good job with
Oh, good.
everything.
You're familiar?
So, a little bit. I'm not
Okay.
gonna say it's my favorite thing. Maybe I should start looking at that more for some AI and everything. But yeah, either way, these like sort of metrics right now, sort of what should I say? Use these new models. They use more data and everything, but the output isn't really much different. And that's kind of where sort of these different models come in and everything. I think they use Claude Sonnet. That's kind of the base one right there.
Hmm.
Look at just
Yeah.
some things that Gemini put out for me. Actual tokens generated between 4.6 and 5. When they did the Claude Sonnet 4.6 up to 5. The same kind of prompt right there with 4.6 used about 1,000 tokens, and Claude Sonnet 5 used about 1,300 tokens.
Wow.
So your usage is going to get used up a lot faster. And when you're paying more for something, you're not seeing a notable difference. People are going to start to catch on.
Yeah,
You know, people are going to catch
yeah.
on to these things.
For those of you who are on a paid plan where you're probably not paying attention to the per thing cost, what that means is you're going to run out of credits quicker as a result of using these higher models. I have actually noted myself actually using lower models to just because I know how to use them better than some of these newer ones.
Hmm.
Speaking of Gemini, let's talk about Pro 3.1 Pro that came out February.
Yeah,
I believe Google itself said something along the lines of an evolution, not a revolution. And
yeah.
after it premiered, the daily use of it leveled off like within a month.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah, I mean I'm using sort of Gemini right now to just kind of do its points and everything like that.
mhm,
So under the hood, the thinking levels. This is the new one right here. Thinking
yeah.
levels. How much do you want it to think? And your immediate thing is like, oh, I want it to think as much as possible.
No, you don't.
Yeah, no, 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 you don't. And Gemini 3.1 Pro brought this into it, and everything. I don't
Right.
have the paid Gemini plan, but the paid Claude plan does have this as well. And you always wonder, okay, how much more is it actually thinking? Is it just running the same scripts more times to
I,
verify the same thing over and over again? Because basically that's what you're doing behind the scene is you're just running the scripts with the code and everything like that. And if all you're doing is running the same thing about 3 or 4 times, is 5 coats of paint on that wall going to do much better than 2 coats of paint? Essentially. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm
that's
kind of looking at it right there.
I like that, and
Um,
I think that's an episode idea. Same prompt with the high thinking, medium thinking,
yeah, you know what? We,
low.
we we definitely have some episodes, so stay tuned.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
yeah. As always,
Definitely.
just keep listening to us, and you know,
Every
we'll,
single week, yeah. But either way, but yeah, so Google's even starting to kind of get into a saturation point as well. And if people are going to pay this kind of money for all these models and what have you, it's gonna people are gonna start to think, why am I paying anymore?
hmm.
If my LLM's kind of going out the same, and we can't we can't go through without the big AI companies without talking about XAI or Grok
Yeah.
and everything.
Grok
It did
4X. Yeah.
got a lot of usage.
When Grok 4X came out, now on that score sheet, one of the score sheets, one of the major performance ones, it was way ahead to a point where the marketing was everybody was going. I remember Twitter was blowing up. Like, look at these test
Hmm.
scores, and it did very well on the test scores. And at one point, there was some website that does like these user voted leaderboards, and it was like king of that.
Hmm.
And then apparently, when independent testers started doing it, they needed almost double the amount of edits that they would use, that Claude would use for simple writing tasks, I believe.
Hmm.
So it did a lot of high complex stuff, again, marketing to that upper tier of users. Whereas the 90% of us who needed to help us revise emails,
Hmm.
find me the main idea, main concept, condense this PDF so I can read it. Some of these ones don't do as well on that. And there's no reason that they
Yeah.
shouldn't do well. They're LLMs, that's their jobs as these
Yeah.
things get better.
Yeah, definitely. And um Grok, I know, Elon Musk has his, fan club or what have you, and
Hmm.
everyone's automatically going to Grok or what have you. But it definitely has quite a bit of a personality. Um, the thing is, like, they kind of actually programmed it to give it more personality,
Hmm.
which may appeal for a quick laugh or two, but essentially, by giving an AI a personality, you're using up coding power, and you're actually like using up space on the model and what have you. And that has actually, a lot of people feel that has affected Grok's execution, where you were talking about what was it? Needed double the edits versus Claude on writing tasks or what have
Right.
you.
Yeah. Yes.
And a lot of people actually do blame the, edgy personality that's fixed into Grok as to not being able to execute as well. So
Interesting.
I think we're really seeing the limit. Whereas Claude, it will blatantly tell you, I'm here to just do work. I'm not here to have fun. So if you try any of that with Claude, it's just going to shut you down. And
What's
you
funny,
you just got to think about that.
I feel like if a human was named Claude, that would be the response you would get from a man named Claude. Would be like,
You
I'm
know
not here to
what?
humor you. I am here to help.
Yes, Claude does sound like a name that is like all business, no jokes.
Right.
If anybody out there is named Claude, I apologize for stereotyping you. But you gotta admit your name just sounds like you mean all business and
Yeah.
everything. So,
Yeah. It's
but
like, if
nothing
your
wrong
name,
with that. We need different people.
I think there was another name. If your name Jeeves, I'm willing to bet you're a butler. Just throwing that out there. But hey, if we're wrong,
Yeah.
do us a favor, like and subscribe, and then comment on our LinkedIn page so we can have an open dialogue conversation about this. I just think that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, we would love to
Absolutely.
engage with you. If your name's really Claude, reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, either way, so bottom line, a smarter chatbot.
Yeah,
I think we've kind of reached a saturation point, to be honest with you.
yeah.
And I think this is where sort of the hype of how intelligent an AI can be.
Hmm.
Um, I think this just proves a saturation point.
So,
But, I mean, what's actually driving the blandness? This is our next segment. I think we
yeah,
kind of all explained it really, with each point right there is that we're paying more, they're announcing more, but we're not seeing
yeah.
anything different, essentially.
I also think there's a lot more of some of these companies are pressured to raise funds. And we've
Hmm.
talked about this to extent, I think, believe on the podcast many times. A lot of these companies have to raise funds. They have to keep the money coming in. They have to try to keep the value of the company high. So every time they release these
Hmm.
new models, they're number one in the standards. Oh, look at this. Look how great we're doing. And they
Hmm.
get money thrown at them. Although maybe we should update that because I'm not sure what is actually happening with the money right now. With AI, these companies. So maybe that's something I should look into. But I do
Yeah.
think that's playing into this. And I will say sometimes these announcements of when they're moving to another model, they do seem rushed, or they're
Hmm.
in response to somebody else's model that was just released. That seems to be. It seems to me like
Yeah.
ChatGPT and Gemini were the worst at it for a long time. Now it seems
Hmm.
like whenever Claude does it, somebody's got to do something. And ChatGPT probably the one
Yeah.
that has the newest models the most, if I had to guess. But I don't have any.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to kind of go look back on that, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think like when you're just like pumping out a new model every year, it's like, okay, maybe you need to slow down and actually think about what coming out with a new model actually means, or a new revision or what have you.
yeah,
Because, right now, Gemini, let's see here, it has flashlight, and Pro. Flash is the one I use when I'm just kind of asking it specific questions. Like earlier today, I asked it how I could store fresh herbs for my garden, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, the Pro is marketed as advanced math and code. Um, but how advanced is it really?
yeah.
And a lot of people just aren't feeling that it's quite needed and everything. So. Um, yeah, it's going to be interesting
It
to
is.
see, how these companies start to justify, you know, investors now.
Uh,
And I think
I
this blandness is going to start to reflect on that.
I will tell you, if they're all behaving the same, there's no reason to have more than one subscription. Pick the one that is the best
Mm,
because they're not wowing. Right now, they're not wowing us. I mean, if you look
mm,
at our earlier
definitely.
episodes, a lot of them were, oh, check out what this can do now. Like when we discovered Copilot had that wonderful feature that can like upload stuff to your calendar immediately, and oh my gosh, what we did with the Claude projects for the first time when that came out with the Thanksgiving episode. I think that's like the fourth time we've referenced the Thanksgiving episode. It was great
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, essentially, how are these companies going to survive? What is the next frontier? Because obviously, coming out with the new LLM model isn't the big thing it used to be.
no, it's not exciting people like it used to. So then that time will tell. I mean,
Definitely.
if I knew the answer, I'd be pitching it to, Anthropic or OpenAI or whoever. I'd be pitching it if I knew what's coming next. But if you're a
Hmm
listener and you think you know what's coming next, when we post this episode on LinkedIn, please come by, check us out. What are the other social medias you could check us out at, Brian?
hmm
What's
Social media.
Yeah,
We're on Blue Sky and X,
Blue Sky and
YouTube, and
X.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, we want to
Yeah,
hear
we're
from you guys.
keeping that
Yeah.
slide for. Yeah, definitely keeping on that Fab Four. But um, kind of my thing is you're gonna have to come out with some sort of product that uses your model, essentially that
Okay.
actually does some good and what have you. Couple of things that come off the top of my mind: Cloud Projects and Google or Notebook LM from Google. Those were two products that are actually very useful.
Yes.
Because you think about cloud projects, you upload your own data or whatever, Google or Notebook LM, you put in your own documents, and both of those kind of went along that same line right there, is that you're using your own documents for their model to analyze and produce for you. And directions like that are what's actually going to start to set these companies apart.
Yeah.
Because, Google, you get all the creative workspace, like their VO models and everything.
Hmm.
Claude, you get Claude Code, which integrates into your coding platform. So I think you're going to start to see some differentiations when people actually say, okay, here's our model, and here's what you can actually do with the model. And I think that's ultimately what's going to start to win people over right there.
Agreed. Agreed. I think you brought up a good point there. So, I
Yeah.
guess here's the final question. I'm just going to ask you right
hmm
now, is AI bland?
Um, the excitement of AI existing is bland. I think once it started to come out, everyone's like, "Oh, whoa, 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 AI, AI, AI,
Hmm.
AI." Well, like it's powered by AI. This is powered by AI, and it just became this buzzword. And now all that hype that everyone that was like had this vision in their head, like, well, this is going to be AI, and they're now realizing, oh, okay, that's not as good as I thought it was. So I think versus hype, it's bland, but I think it's still very useful. Um,
Yes.
but the hype train is run out of steam, so to say, or has
Hmm.
left the station, or whichever one you want to goes to.
I,
But what
I
do you
like them
think?
both. I do. I think it's bland right now. I
hmm
haven't seen anything that's wowing me or knocking my socks off. I know we're going to move into agentic AI where the agents are doing the stuff for you, but I still feel like that's an upper tier, very specific niche. I feel like the layman's are starting to get a little not left behind, but not thought of. And I think there's tremendous opportunities if these companies start to pivot and say, hey, how can we use this stuff for the common everyday person instead of the
hmm
maximizing coding capabilities? But if somebody from that industry would tell me, Adam, we have to maximize the coding capabilities so we can eventually help out the layman and make it more relevant to them, I get that. But come on the episode and explain it to us. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's like you're gonna have to start coming out with products.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, that's kind of where we're at. Um, but I think that about wraps it up for this evening.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think did a good job bringing everything. I had fun talking about this, but either way, I'd like to give everybody a big thank you for taking your time out of your day to listen to us. My name is Brian,
And I'm Adam.
and you have been listening to the Layman's AI, and we will see you next time.